I would like to go over this week's assignment. Here you have a handout which tells you what you will be doing and gives you an example of what your page should look like. Here we have a file that has the content for the web page. So this is what your web page will look like in the handout. I have indicated the needed HTML elements next to it. Notice some of these elements have some presentation formatting attached to them, such as the headings and the lists. These elements not only convey the meaning of the content, but their display also adds to the meaning. Rather than typing all the text into the document, I give you the text in an external file so that you can copy and paste it. So here is the text in the external file. You can copy it in all at once, little by little. If you prefer, you may just type all the content in. The first thing we need to do is to create an HTML document. I am in Visual Studio Code, so I will go to the File menu and I will say New File and I will give it a name. Once you give it a name, as I have here, it will prompt you to save it on your computer. You should have a folder on your computer dedicated to all the work in this class. You should create a folder inside the main folder for every assignment and also for practice work. So I have a folder CAWT. I have a folder inside that for the assignment. I will select that and I will say Create File. Now here is my file. The first thing I need to do is to create my basic HTML tags. So here are my basic tags. You always need these for every document. All of the content for the web page will be inside the body section. So you can separate that because that's where all of your content will be. Now I will copy from my text file and paste into my document. It is always a good idea to save every time you do something. So now I have my PDF file on the right and my Visual Studio Code is on the left, so I can follow the directions for the assignment. We want to have Overview of Web Development as our title, so in my code editor I can cut that and I can paste it into my title. Now I will modify my code a little bit here. Web development is going to be an H1 element, so I can start typing in my H1 tag. Now notice that the editor will always close that tag, so you need to manually move that. So I'm going to cut and paste. Next we have a block quote element. HTML is the standard markup, etc. So I can start with my block quote. Again, we see the ending tag. I need to cut that and paste it. Let me save this document and now let's test it. You always want to test your code in a browser every so often to make sure you're doing things correctly. And also, it's a lot easier to find the mistakes early on rather than have a lot of mistakes that you have to find later. All right, take a look at what we have. Our H1 element is large and bold. That's part of the presentation that comes with that element because it's a heading. It's the largest. It's the most important. Underneath, we have a block quote element. It's indented a little bit from the left of the page because we want to draw some attention to it. Notice the rest of the content is all squashed together. That's because we have not yet added any HTML markup. So you will continue adding the markup as instructed in the handout, again, testing your code as you go. So in this assignment, we're learning about the different heading level elements, of which there are 6. So here on the left-hand side, we see the markup for the 6 heading level elements. On the right, we see what they look like in the browser. Notice that they are bold, they are varying size, and that there is a generous amount of space in between each one of them. These are all what are called block elements or block level elements, meaning they automatically have a line break after them. They stack on top of each other. You can only have one block element on one line at a time unless you use CSS, which we will learn later. We are also learning about our ordered and unordered list. Here on the left-hand side, we see the code for our UL and our OL. And on the right-hand side, we see by default a UL or unordered list is a bulleted list. An OL or ordered list is typical numbers 1, 2, 3. Again, look at the markup. Again, look at the formatting. There is a marker in front of the list items, and there is an indentation from the left. If you've worked with Microsoft Word, you're probably familiar at least with a simple list. An unordered list begins with the UL and ends with the closing UL. The only elements allowed inside the UL and the ending UL are the LI elements. Every item is surrounded by an LI element. These are also block elements. Let's take a look at the OL. It starts with the OL and we have our ending OL. The only items allowed inside are LI elements. I don't want to see anything else inside here. Don't go throwing in breaks and paragraphs or whatever else you want. It doesn't belong there. It is incorrect markup. Even if the browser tries to display it and it looks okay, it is still incorrect. I would also like to state that the only place an LI element belongs is inside an OL or a UL. Do not put them anywhere else. It may still show up, but it is incorrect. Finally, let's look at our description list. On the left-hand side, we see it opens and closes with a DL. That stands for description list. We do not have LI items inside a description list. We have 2 other types of elements. We have a DT, which essentially is a description term, a DD, which is essentially a description data. So we have a term and a data, or a definition. It's called a description list. So we indicate something and we describe it. Again, this markup has a meaning to it. It is used in a meaningful sense to identify the type of content in addition to showing the user a visual layout of it. So here we have the DT element, coffee and milk. They are on the left. However, the description is underneath and it's a little bit indented, which makes it easy to see and understand. Again, these are all block elements. The only HTML elements that are allowed inside a DL element are a DT and a DD. I do not want to see LIs or paragraphs or anything else inside here. So this is the assignment for this week. Please go over the handout. Please go over the book so you understand why you are using the elements that you are using.